Hi again, Gonzaga High School. It's David Peters here from the Green Party of Canada. You guys had 4 questions, and here are my answers to your 4 questions. The first one was about climate change, and I covered that really extensively in my first video. I just want to point out a couple of points that I made, but a little bit of an elaboration on them here. We want full national zero carbon electricity nationwide. That's essential to getting to our targets under the Paris Climate Accord. We need to immediately stop issuing licenses for new oil and pipeline developments. We need to cease imports of foreign oil and milk the existing Newfoundland offshore oil for refining and use within Canada. Also, we need to electrify all new vehicles sold in Canada by 2030. And there are other measures that you can see on our website on greenparty.ca. As happened in British Columbia, the question then talked about who you work with in Parliament. Our dream scenario is that we maybe elect 5, 10, maybe even 20 Green members of Parliament. And if another party doesn't have more than half of the total seats, in other words, if one party doesn't have more than half the seats in Parliament of the 338, that party that has the most may have to require Green parliamentarian support in Parliament to have the confidence of Parliament. And that's a way we can really get things done. Because really when it comes to climate change, we have to stop arguing between the parties, whether the Conservatives deny climate change or the Liberals agree there's climate change but don't want to do much. All that has to sort of stop because this is a climate emergency, and the partisanship and the decarbonizing of Canadian society is more important than bickering between the parties. I think we should all agree on that. The second question was related to debt and deficits. Our party's platform is to increase both federal government revenues and expenditures. We want to make the tax system fairer by asking large corporations and the very rich to pay a greater percentage in tax than they currently do. We would raise the large business tax rate from 17 to 21%. And by moving it to 21%, it would make it equal to the United States rate for large businesses. And that's our biggest trading partner. So there's no major pain or we're not tying their hands behind their backs. We would also give the Canada Revenue Agency, our tax people, the resources they need to collect tax revenue from those very rich Canadians who have been cheating, paying their tax in the past years by hiding fortunes in foreign banks. There are literally tens of billions of dollars there, which we can use to make the necessary investments to green the Canadian economy. When it balances out, our plan on deficits is the same level of deficit as the projections of the current government. So that goes from a $16.6 billion deficit next year, shrinking to $8.4 billion in 2024. So higher revenue, higher expenditure to deal with the climate emergency. The third question that you guys had was related to vaping-related illness, and this is a fairly new thing that we're seeing in the news now and very disturbing. I have 1 or 2 medical friends, doctor friends, who've been posting on social media a fair bit about the risks associated with vaping. And I think the differences that we're seeing are a bit puzzling between the situation in the United States, the death and serious illness there. It seems it's not as frequently happening in Canada. And I think we need to know what's unique about vaping products that are being sold in Canada or the United States. Is there something about the American products or the Americans themselves that are causing what seems to be a greater incidence of disease and death? But to the extent that dangers of vaping are found to be equivalent to smoking cigarettes, we need to put in place equivalent restrictions that exist for cigarettes on the sale of vaping products and vaping delivery devices. But these are early days, and much more to come on that. The last question you guys had was on electoral reform. And this is a big one for us. This is really big. Not as big as climate change, but it's linked to climate change in a funny way. Proportional representation is strongly supported as an electoral system by the Green Party of Canada. I was actually closely involved in our policy wording a couple of years ago on this. The idea of proportional representation, as others may be saying in their answers, is that the number of representatives each party has in Parliament should be fairly close to the percentage of support that party receives at the ballot box. We Greens are the big loser under our current obsolete system called first past the post. We consistently have about 10% support across Canada, but we have less than 1% of the lawmakers, elected lawmakers. We should have, based on popular vote or popular support, 30 MPs. But in the last Parliament, we only had 2. A Green vote is a vote to enhance our democracy through proportional representation. So the voters who mark an X for parties other than the most popular in each riding are more fairly represented in Ottawa. There are many proportional systems. There's a thing called the Gallagher Index, which tracks the closeness between the popular vote and the number of parliamentarians for each party. It's complicated. It can be complicated, but we need to upgrade our electoral system. This is a matter of significant urgency. Anyway, thanks again. Please do visit greenparty.ca for more details on my campaign and on the Green Party of Canada. Thank you so much.